They're back on.
Oh, they're back on. We're back on.
Yeah.
We're back on and recording.
Back on and recording, you vacuuming. Thank you very much.
I'm trying to clean up, Keith.
I tell you what, I don't know if anybody's heard. I like Barbara Streisand, and I've got an early LP of hers where it's Barbara Streisand, another musical instrument, and she's actually singing with a vacuum cleaner and a washing machine. It's terrible. Yeah, people who need people, but not with a vacuum cleaner.
Freddie Mercury sang with a vacuum cleaner.
He did, yeah. Dressed like you do on a weekend, lol.
That's right. Want to go out with you?
Well, we're
We managed to get hold of Ian, Keith.
yes. There's a problem at the care home that that he goes to. Not as an inmate, of course. He does his daily check on residents at a care home, and there's a problem, so he's unable to make it. So I'm doing the recordings. I'll send them to him, and they'll be on the website later on, no doubt.
Yeah. I've just sent you our website address, Chris.
Brilliant.
I think you'll find it interesting. There's a lot of stuff on there, including some short films we've done with Glyn McGuire, a couple of podcasts that I did about my dad's memoirs, growing up in Carbrook in 20s and 30s, and wartime experiences from 40 to 46.
We'll keep in touch after, and I'll get you some contacts, some top guests.
Oh yes, please. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, what you've got us doing is talking. We like a bit of banter, don't we, lads?
Yeah.
So that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
One thing, Chris, when you try to look at the website, if you're just looking in a Google search, you have to put 3ws.smsheffield.co.uk. Otherwise, you get a company in Sheffield, something SM Sheffield. So, but if you can't,
sadomasochism.
Yeah. If you can. If by some chance you can't find it, then get in touch with John and we can send you a link to it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'll get you some good guests, lads.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Chris.
Well, I think on, John. How's it going on with that one with your dad, with the photographs going on to it? You know how that
I was doing what? Sorry, Lol.
You know, Glenn was going to do another one.
Oh, yeah, he is. He
photographs.
A couple of days ago, he said that it won't only be photographs, there'll be video, because I did some video interviews with my dad at Leopold Hotel and various places like that, McClure. He wouldn't talk to me in a pub, my dad. It had to be at McClure Hotel or Leopold Square Hotel. Yeah. He got airs above his station. Yeah. Now, so they're going to appear in the next few weeks, hopefully, Lol.
Good, good. Looking forward to it, John.
Good.
So, you've told us a bit about your blogging or podcasts and that. I actually believe that I think I've actually seen you play music.
Unlucky.
Because you used to be in a band called the Violet Maze, didn't you?
I did. So
you was at the,
are they still going?
Yeah, you was at the book launch of the book on the Violet Maze, and that book was co-written by a certain John Firminger.
Yes, correct.
Who you might
the white sheep of the family.
I'm his younger brother.
Brilliant.
So
was it linked to the? Is it linked to the Violet Maze music shop that you got the name?
So yes. I started a band. I had a terrible job at a call centre, which I hated at the time. But lo and behold, I got sat next to a lad who were originally from Southport, and great guitarist. And I never wanted to be in a band ever. I liked music, but then he played. We used to go sneak out for a cigarette in the afternoon, and he used to play me his songs in headphones, and I did genuinely like the stuff he was writing. So he says, let's start a band. Come on, let's just get in a practice room and start a band. So before I knew it, there were foreigners, and we'd got some of that resembled a band. I says, well, we need a name. First things first, we need a name. And we were searching high and low, no was sticking. And we went into Washington pub in town. And an old fella, I forget his name, he taught me how to play chess, actually, in Washington pub. And he says, and a conversation turned to old record shops in Sheffield. And he says, I used to shop at Violet Maze.
Yeah.
I says, that's a nice name. It gave me nice visions when I heard it. He says, she were a cantankerous old such and such Violet Maze.
It was.
So, and it stuck with us. And so what happened then is you got a lot of older lads or older women coming to watch us because of names. So yeah, we did name the band after the record shop. I never met the lady, obviously.
Yeah.
Remember the shop?
I think some of us did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think she minced the words.
No, she didn't. Yeah.
Scared me to death.
Yeah. You had to make your mind up quick what you were going to buy, or she'd have you out at shop. Yeah.
Well, I kind of liked that edge to it. It sounded like I liked the colour violet, and I thought, well, she's an arsehole and all, so we'll call it, and it stuck. And John wrote a book about the record shop where we played the launch of it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And
so have you given up on music altogether then, Chris?
I've actually. I stopped. We did all right. We toured Italy, we toured Germany, we went to Iceland or all places. We had a good crack at it, but it's tiring being in that band and being in a band. And if it's not paying bills, and you walk in at 6:30 in the morning after playing London, you're up for work at 8. Something's got to give. So we stopped. But what I do now, I'm at university training to be an occupational therapist. And my background's always been in like social care. My cousin had Down syndrome, and I think that's where my love for helping people started really. And I've had a lot of experience with people with dementia, so I'm training to be an occupational therapist as we speak. But I also write a bit of comedy, and I do an online comedy about a Sunday League football manager.
Is that about Keith?
Well, I'll try and send you a link so you can share it out, because you'll all understand jokes. And it's about a bloke who's having a bit of a midlife crisis, so he takes all his anger out on this group of no-hopers on a Sunday morning. So so I've been writing that but it's just a bit of an hobby, really.
Yeah, please send me the link, Chris.
I'll send you links. I'm sure you'll all recognise some of the situations he gets his sending on a Sunday morning, calling referee such and such, Brian. And we've got one scene where we're on where Wing Gardens is.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
He's told all lads 11 o'clock we're meeting. Kick-off's at 11:30. I want you there at 11. And I'm on one side at River, and one of the lads is saying, "Where are you? I can't find her." I says, "Well, 12 of the lads are here, and there's only you missing." And he pops up on his other side at Bleeding River at near Fletcher's. It's all a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I'll send you a link.
Yes, please. Yeah.
When my brother's always had a strong following with band in Liverpool, and some Evertonians came to gig, and some of them were keen historians, and they did me a little fact file on my granddad's brother.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So that's him.
Look him up.
I'll just that's him there. You can't see it.
You see Dixie Dean?
And that's Dixie Dean.
Mm.
And that's the football league medal. He won a football league medal. We don't know where it went, but that's the medal he won. Brilliant. Yeah, that's from. He was meant to be some player, Dixie Dean.
Oh yeah.
Chris,
ahead of his time.
Yeah, Chris, could you just hold that medal up again, please?
Football league medal from, I think it's 1933, I think. But we never know where it went, my granddad's brothers. We're still to this day somewhere.
Yeah.
Keithati.
I'll come round, Keith, and have a look. I'll try and show what some. One of my great. Some at Wednesday, I still remember a player called Jose Semedo.
Oh yeah.
Now, Semedo, for me, I loved him because the bloke gave 110% every single game. He just fell in love with club straight away.
Yeah.
And at the time, my pal were, do you know Paul Smith, physio?
Oh yeah, yeah. Should never have been sacked.
Yes, he were.
Yeah, should never have been sacked.
He managed to get Semedo at captain on Boxing Day. And he managed to get me Semedo's shirt.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
And I told our lass, you never wash this because it smells of him still.
Yeah.
It's
Got Semedo's DNA on it. Yeah.
To Chris, best wishes, Jose.
Brilliant.
So I'm just going to work on that. You what, pal?
You what?
Do you know what happened to him, Chris Semedo, when he finished with Wednesday?
I think he plays for a Portuguese team now called Vitória Setúbal.
Yeah.
Great professional. Is he,
Here's
and his
another
best?
player you might
Yes.
remember.
What's that bottle you've got there, mate?
Oh,
Here's
it's
number 9.
brilliant.
Brilliant.
I've
Yeah.
just put something better against it, just to ward off evil.
You've spoilt it now, mate.
I'll put something better.
Yeah. The thing about that shirt is that Azerbaijan on front. I mean, did we ever get any money from that bloke from Azerbaijan? He was on our shirts for a complete season, and I don't think we got a penny from him.
Azerbaijan, I don't know what happened to him. He were a dodgy man, I think, weren't he?
He was, yeah. Yeah.
That's also the sponsor of Atletico Madrid.
Are they?
Yeah, I
They got
think
more money out of it than we did.
Well, probably. We were talking about Wednesday here.
Yeah.
I mean, we let a certain Eric Cantona go, didn't we?
Yeah, there's a few myths about that, though. We did let him go, but yeah, he weren't very good, were he?
No, he didn't do bad
He wouldn't have
after.
suited our style.
40 grand a week.
This
Couldn't play
made
on
me
grass,
laugh.
could he?
Football programmes have changed over the years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's
Newspaper.
from
Yeah.
Derby versus Sheffield Wednesday, the
Yeah.
Ram.
Yeah.
And front page is dedicated to asking fans to try and curb the language.
Impossible.
Good luck. I think that were an optimistic headline, weren't it? Another one.
That were a muddy ground, that weren't it? Baseball ground. That were muddy.
The worst.
I'm gutted
The
I never
worst.
got to go to baseball ground.
It was the single worst grounds.
Yeah. You wanted to see now, Chris, because you couldn't see out at away end. There were so many pillars. That's it. That's the word I'm looking for. So many pillars in front of you couldn't see pitch.
Never any grass on it, was there?
No.
Mud bath.
Yeah.
I remember seeing United lose 3-0 in a cup tie there in the 70s. And that was just mud, not one blade of grass anywhere.
Yeah.
We lost every match we ever played.
Well, there were one match where we played Derby away in Cup at midweek, and it were icy. The pitch were icy. It shouldn't really have been played. Martin Hodge went up to catch a ball, went up at centre half shoulder, and dropped on his head. And Arthur Cox, their manager, said he were feigning injury. So he dropped from 6 feet onto his head, but he were feigning injury, said Arthur Cox. Yeah. And we beat him in replay.
Other one I found that were a bit random is Eric.
Oh yes.
Eric Taylor testimonial match between England and Wednesday, and I don't know if you can see lineups.
Not quite.
Tony Curry played. I can see his name.
Tony Curry were there, were they?
England team was that day was Peter Shilton in net. There were Alan Stevenson, a Frank Lampard, but I think it's the elder statesman of the Lampard family, isn't it?
Yeah.
Steve Whitworth, Laurie Madden, Dave Watson, Billy Bonds, Colin Bell, a certain Tony Curry, Trevor Brooking, Rodney Marsh, Frank Worthington. So there were some players on that pitch.
Some skill there.
Don Reevy didn't pick that team.
No, I said Don Revy wasn't near it.
Yeah, great administrator, Eric Taylor. One of the best he's been in Sheffield.
I don't know much about Taylor, to be honest.
He was responsible for building Cantilever Stand and bringing
Right.
World Cup to Sheffield. It was mainly because of his planning and his experience that we got it. But
Yeah.
other people would argue we should have spent more money on players than we did on ground at the time. It's debatable.
Albert Quicksall there somewhere.
Yeah.
He was meant to be a player. Quicksall, weren't he?
My hero.
Yeah, Dave Zero. Went to Maynard Road School, didn't you, Dave?
I think is he still alive, Quicksall?
I think so. Last I heard, he got a scrap business in Manchester. But I don't know whether he'll not be working now, will he? I would imagine.
No, Chris has got to consult his archives.
First person Busby signed after Munich, I think, were he?
Yeah, 40-odd thousand a record at the time.
45, was it, John?
45,000. Yeah, and he
Good
played
player.
in 1963 Cup final for him.
Yeah.
Who do you think's best they've had down at Lane then?
Jimmy Hagan.
Jimmy Hagan, Tony
Jimmy Hagan.
Clay, Joe Shaw.
Woodward.
Alan Woodward, yeah.
Yeah.
Alan Hodgkinson, great goalkeeper.
Terrific goalkeeper.
For me, the best player I've seen as a complete player was Joe Shaw.
I agree, Keith.
I'd agree with that, Keith. Yeah.
Yeah. I hardly saw Jimmy Hagan, so I saw his testimonial when Albert Quicksall played. Well, he was still with Wednesday, and they took him off at half time because he'd had 3 shots first half, and they'd all finished up in Bramall Lane. The ball. He was off at half time.
Did you want a testament, Colin?
Yeah, I was just going to say Albert Quicksall. Yeah, he's still around. He's 86.
86.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was meant
Could
to be
join
some
us,
player,
couldn't
Quicksall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could perhaps still play for Wednesday.
United win. Yeah.
Well, as a twist of fate, all my mum grew up on ABC streets in Hillsborough, and all my family's always been Wednesday.
Yeah.
And our Deborah, my cousin.
Door, please, Jenny. It's noisy. Sorry.
Our Deborah, my cousin, married Paul Shaw, Paul Shaw is the son of Bernard.
All right.
Oh yeah.
I always forget if it's Bernard or Graham, and he's actually my godfather.
Oh yeah.
Paul. So are all people out of family, my mother could have chose to be my godfather. She chose one blade.
Well, Chris, Graham Shaw was actually a Wednesday fan. He played for United. He was a Wednesdayite.
Yeah. Great fullback.
A few England caps between them, I think, as well.
Yeah, he had about 5 England caps, something like that.
I went because part of my job is I go out and assess for equipment for people to help in their house, like rails and ramps, etc. And my manager plays L. If I go and do an assessment at an old fella's house who's into football, he knows assessment will take 3 hours. But he lets me off with it, and I went to do an old fella's house at, I think it was at Walkley. Big football fan, and he had some mobility problems, and he had old memorabilia out, and he says, "I'm a blade kid, I'm a blade." I says, "We can get over that, don't worry." And he swears by Jimmy Hagan. He says, "You can talk about Waddle, you can talk about Curry, Woodward." He says Hagan was the best. But
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. As Chris, you said other week, it depends. It's one for the ages, isn't it? Yeah, comparing somebody from the 40s and 50s to someone from the 70s and 80s like Tony Curry. It's not really comparing like with like, is it?
no, it's impossible, isn't it?
Yeah, Colin. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, while we're on memories of thing, I remember seeing he was playing at Notts County at the time. Tommy Logan was playing, but Jackie Sewell
Or
Who
Jackie
went to
Struggle.
Wednesday after? Yeah.
Good player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people I'm always asking questions to older lads about who they've seen, and they all say George Best. When they say who were the best, they say Georgie Best.
Yeah,
Definitely.
he was.
I mean, they can talk about Lionel Messi now and Ronaldo's, but there's no way of comparing, is there?
No.
No.
I mean,
No, Messi is my favourite.
say that again, Doug.
I said Messi is my favourite. I like him because of his skill, but also because of his temperament. You rarely see Messi diving or cheating. I'm not saying he never does, but it's rare to see or getting mardy, unlike Mr. Ronaldo, who's a great player, but very mardy.
Yeah. Doug, what were you saying?
No, I was saying you can't compare old footballers with today's. It's not like an athlete. He runs against the clock.
Yeah.
It's faster. But what we have today, they didn't have then, like a diet, training facilities.
No.
Just look at the playing pitch. I've just seen Liverpool's on news this morning. It's absolutely perfect. You wouldn't have had that in the season, years ago. So and the ball, we all know what a ball used to be like when you headed it place.
Oh yeah.
You put your heart.
Yeah.
You used to leave the lace mark on your blooming forehead.
That's why we're all like we are today.
Yeah.
We've all headed the ball too much, haven't we?
That's why we've got short necks.
I remember I went to see our Richard play at Mansfield, and he came before he went even into the dressing rooms. He came to the side of the pitch to talk to his mum and to Auntie Sue and myself, and you couldn't believe how much he was sweating, and you could see he was totally drained. And I don't think I think that's more modern than in such as Joe Shaw and maybe Jimmy Hagan's day. I don't think they probably did work as hard, but they didn't work as hard. The immense putting that they have now. Anyway, that's.
Were there a classic match at Hillsborough between Man United and Wednesday in them days?
Yeah, after Manchester United had won European Cup in '68, Wednesday played them and won 5-4. They'd got Best and Law and Charlton, and we won 5-4. And Jack Whittam scored 3.5 goals. Yeah. There was a dispute about the fourth, about whether it was Nobby Styles or him. And I missed that game, like yourself, Chris, and the earlier games you've missed. I were playing for Pearson Sports on that day. I were hoping that number 2 bus had come before my lift had come, so I could go to the match instead. Played for Pearson Sports, and we lost 8-1. Meanwhile, Wednesday beating Manchester United 5-4. Horrible day.
There were as many goals, John.
Very true, Keith. I never looked at it that way. Yeah, I was lucky, weren't I?
And just to compound your misery, I was actually at that match.
You were.
I was there, yeah.
So was I.
Oh, blimey.
They all say it was some game, that.
Yeah, terrific game. So they tell me.
This one leaves a sour taste in my mouth, this next one.
What's
Because
that then?
I loved the bloke, and if you're talking about raw talent, he had it, but he left on a sour note, didn't he? Paolo Di Canio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
What a talent he were.
Brilliant player, but a moron.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's we just handled that situation badly. We'd got a referee who wasn't as balanced as Brian. I'm sure Brian wouldn't have staggered backwards like Norman Wisdom and fallen down. Then, meanwhile, McClure, our secretary, handled it badly, ignored him for about 3 months. So what's he going to do? And who picks him up for threatens? Harry Redknapp. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
bargain at century, that.
That was the starter I declined, that.
I don't know what else I've got. That's a programme from Kaiserslautern away, that we were cheating that night.
When David Hurst got sent off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all in German though, so it's not much cop for me really.
Chris,
Yeah.
can you hold that program up again, please? Where does it mention Wednesday?
It says Sheffield something. Yes,
Sheffield strategy.
Strategy. I mean, I've never really looked through it because it's all in German, to be honest.
Sheffield.
Which is a crime, isn't it? Just calling clubs. They do it a lot this season. Here we are. We are there.
Yeah. Not as bad as Gary Lineker saying that Jack Charlton managed United.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that were a bad. He apologised for that, didn't he?
Yeah, he looked upset about it actually.
Here he is, our Nigel. Oh no, it's Roland Nielsen. That we Alan Smith, physio.
Yeah. Terrific fullback. And
Yes,
terrific
they were
physio.
very underrated.
Yeah.
What else I've got here?
One of the few physios, handful of physios that you could recognise, but that you know the name of and you could recognise.
Yeah, we're almost famous in his own right, Smith, weren't he?
Yeah, he was.
England physio.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to matches. My pal Steve Oldfield, he's in he's 65 now. And the thing I love about football is it's a great leveler. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. I mean, I've had it in a car before going down to somewhere like Bristol, and there's an 18-year-old in car, a 70-year-old, and a 35-year-old, and they're all talking about the same thing. It's beautiful, really.
It is.
Yeah.
Shared experiences, shared memories.
Yeah, and I love just listening to old stories. I could listen to them all night.
Yeah.
So
you want to come and join our group when we're able to come to the library again?
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Visit our group and
yeah,
see what we're like in the flesh.
Yeah. Can we just go back to your blog now or your podcast? Is there anything in particular that you've found about or led to or?
How was it received? Did you get much feedback?
People loved it. I mean, because it was so positive, it were hard for people to criticise it. I think if you're putting something out there that's positive and trying to give and bringing back good memories, it's hard for people to pick apart. We had John Sheridan come down, and at times Sheridan was manager of Chesterfield, so I think he were a bit careful about what he said because he's still in a job. Whereas Carlton works in China, he didn't care him, and he says, "What did he?" Sheridan told the good, and he says, "That game where they played Manchester United at Old Trafford and Steve Bruce scored them 2 late headers."
Yeah, in '96.
Fergie time, and he says, he says, referee. He says, what happened? I says, what happened that game? He says, I'll tell you what happened, and it's never actually come out. He says, the referee. No one knows, but the referee that day got injured. Wednesday were 1-0 up. It's late on. And referee, I think he pulled his calf muscle, and as they switched referees, he never set his. He swears Sheridan that the referee never set his clock back on his watch, so he were making up the time. And he says this is where Fergie time were born, because Ferguson's saying there's still 6 minutes left. There were never 6. That game should have been wrapped up about 5 minutes before Bruce put them 2 goals in. And but they scored a penalty. Sheridan scored a penalty that day to put us 1-0 up. And he says a good story is they went into Man United had just pretty much won league, and they all went for a drinking bar after upstairs. And he says Peter Schmeichel. I'll tell you what he says. Peter Schmeichel, what a shit house. He said to me. He come up, he says, they've just won Premiership for the first time in years, and he's trying to pick a fight with me. He says, to Sheridan, you dived for that penalty. No, he says to Waddle, you dived for that penalty. You dived to win that penalty. So Sheridan got injured in a stupid game week before, and I says, what did you do? He says, well, and he's very close with Big Ron Carlton. I think he's like a father figure to him. And he says to us, well, Big Ron had said it's your most important game today. And he says, we're going about I can't play. He says, I need you around dressing room, keeping spirits up. He says, oh, we did that all right. He says, me and Big Ron had polished off a bottle of brandy before kick-off. You won't get that now, would you?
No. Fantastic day. Brian Robson had got shares in grass that day. He spent so much time down. Talk about diving. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, going back to this this Fergie time. I mean, I've never confessed to this before publicly, but many years ago, I was on the line at Coventry versus Chelsea, and Roger Dilts, bless him, came off with 30 minutes to go, and as senior linesman, I went on with 30 minutes left, and Coventry were hanging on to a 1-0 lead against Chelsea, and it was a very vital match for them. And 35 minutes later, I thought, well, I can't go on any longer because I was enjoying it so much. I can't go on any longer. I've got to blow the whistle. Fortunately, there was no dramatic ending, but I thought, yeah, I've got an extra 5 minutes out of it. I better blow the whistle. I don't know what happened at Manchester, but he might have been enjoying it as well.
Ah, you never know.
Doug, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, it was just something about Carlton Palmer on that cup final day. When they were travelling from hotel to ground, Stan Boardman, a comedian, was on board that one.
Yeah.
When he was talking to Carlton Palmer, and he says to him, "We're going to win today, aren't we?" Carlton Palmer says, "Yes, we are." So Stan Boardman turned, he said, "Yeah, and I said we're going to win today, so it's got to be right, because you just had it in black and white. Wouldn't have got to do that today, would it?"
A good one Waddle told us. He weren't Wednesday related, but Chris Waddle shared a room with Paul Gascoigne at Italia 90 for World Cup. He says, I was only one who were able to cope with Gaza like 24/7 because he were hard work, obviously, as we know. And he says, Bobby Robson said to him, night before semi-final, he says, all you need to do tonight, Chris, is get Paul Gascoigne in bed. Just make sure he sleeps. He says, he says, if you've ever tried to get Gaza to go to sleep, he says, you've never tried, no. He says, Gaza were like a little kid. He says, and he had to sleep with all lights on, telly on, shower on. He liked noise when he was asleep. So Waddle had to get up when he went to sleep and turn everything off. So Gaza's finally gone to sleep night before semi-final against West Germany, and Waddle gets up, turns everything off. He thought, finally, I've got Gaza asleep. He says, I've woke up 5 o'clock and all lights are back on and telly's back on and Gaza's nowhere to be seen. He says 6 o'clock goes, he's not. I thought, where the hell is Gaza gone? So Bobby Robson, they had to meet in foyer at 8 o'clock in the morning. There's no Gaza. So Bobby Robson's knocked on hotel door and he's, where is he? I don't know, Gaffer. I don't know where he's gone. He says, Bob Robson's then, they were in Sardinia, I think. Or no, Turin, weren't it? Turin. So he says, Bobby Robson's looked out at the hotel window and Gaza's playing tennis with 2 waiters on a tennis court on night before. This is morning at semi-final. He's saying, Gaza, what are you doing? He says, playing tennis, Gaffer. He says, what did he say? He says, and what score? He says, 3-2. He says, all right. He says, in sets to him. He'd been out there 3.5 hours playing tennis with waiters. He says he were a great character. What a footballer, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrific footballer. That's when we started, when he moved to Italy, they started having Gazzetta Footballer Italia on, didn't they? They followed Gascoigne to Italy. And they used to love that programme on Sundays because you got a bit of culture. Somebody sitting reading an Italian newspaper in a square in Florence or something like that. So you've got the culture and then you've got the football.
And that were at a time when Italian football in the early 90s, that the Milan side they had.
Yeah.
Berese's, Maldini's, Pullet.
Yeah, terrific.
So,
go on, Keith, sorry.
Any more stories about your blog?
Let me try and think. I'm trying to think of some classic ones now. Waddle were great because he's had that experience in Europe as well.
Yeah.
He said he says what he never wanted to leave Tottenham, he said. And he said they were at Wimbledon tennis tournament, they got a free bar. And he says, we never want to turn that down. He says, and I got a phone call. He says, and they dragged me out of Wimbledon, and I were on a flight to France. I had no shouting matter. And he says, I got there, I couldn't speak a word of language, but I was signing for Marseille. And he says, this time they signed a centre-back, a Brazilian centre-back as well. I forget his name. He said he were hard as nails, and they put Waddle in an hotel room with this Brazilian centre-back. Until he says, he's Brazilian, so he speaks Portuguese. I'm from Newcastle, so no one understands me. And we're living in France. So he says, he says, and he used to take me to training every morning. He said there'd be a driver to turn up and take me and this Brazilian lad to training. He says, well, we couldn't have a conversation with each other. He says, so first morning they get in the car, and he says to this Brazilian lad says to him, Gary Lineker. Chris Waddle says, Jairzinho. He says, and this went on for 3 weeks. He says, we were running out of players at the end of 3 weeks. Some cracking stories. But they were different back then, weren't it, football?
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't get away with drinking now and going out downtown and doing what they did.
No way.
What I'd like to do next is do a podcast. I'd like to do a manager's special where we interview ex-managers. So get Megson, Sturrock. Although I think Sturrock's not very well at the minute, I don't think, is he, Paul?
No.
And Carlos. I'd like to get Carlos back to talk about his time.
Yeah.
So
you could interview old managers that Watford have had in a season. That would be a long programme, wouldn't it?
I don't think we've got enough time.
Chris, when you look on our website, have a look at the session we did with Glyn Hodges last week, because there's some bits on that. Glyn was fantastic. He was on holiday as well at this. He was in Spain and still.
Oh, brilliant! In Spain?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Can do that now.
Anyway, we're down now. We're just over a minute to go. So has anybody got any last question that they want to fire at Chris, please?
Well, have you got anything you want to say to us, Chris? Like bugger off or something like that?
No, just thank you very much. And hopefully I'll be able to get you some interesting guests. And I'd love to, when we're allowed to, we'll physically come to meetings and meet you all face to face. I love these sort of conversations.
You'd be welcome to come along to Manor Library or Crystal Peaks Library, Chris. And
well, I'm only down the road from Manor, so I can, when we're allowed to, I'll pop in. But thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for coming. Thank you very much, Chris.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're less than a minute now, lads. I'm going to wrap it up. I'll see you all next Tuesday. So
we're all Wednesday, aren't we?
Thank you.
No. Okay, Jen.
Thanks, everyone.